Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Matt here, and we back with another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. It's the kid here, you know what I'm saying? I'm back with my boy Anderson Silva over my shoulder, you know what I'm saying? Watching over me, make sure everything's going good, you know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead, we'll get off into this. What are we going to talk about today? Well, today we're going to get into a little bit of the UFC Fight Night main event coming up this Saturday. Curtis Blaydes steps in there at heavyweight, stepping in there with Sergei Pavlovich, in the main event of this fight night card coming up this weekend. So I'm definitely interested in checking this out because, well, let's get off into a couple of things here on this. So here's the thing. When you look at this, man, you got to tell two different stories. On one end, you got Sergei Pavlovich, who is, Russian fighter, powerful man. I mean, man strikes hard, lays people out. You got him in there delivering devastating knockouts against people like Derek Lewis. You know what I'm saying? What more do you want? Sergey don't play no games, is all I'm saying. And you got this guy, I mean, he's like a Russian bear, you know what I'm saying? This is a guy, this guy comes at you. If it's snowing outside, you outside on a dark, lonely, snowy winter night. Sergei Pavlovich comes running at you. Bro, I hope you got a rifle because you're not stopping that man. This is what I'm saying. So here's the deal, though, man. This guy is strong. He's got a good, strong base, though. He can wrestle a little bit. He could definitely grapple, but his defensive wrestling, his takedown defense and everything is outstanding. A part of that I believe is because he has such a strong base. Man got a sturdy base. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's hard. He's a hard guy to take down. Now, if you get him down, you might be able to hold him down possibly, but he's a hard guy to take down. And I mean, he's got dynamite in his hands if he strikes with you. He seems to be very, he sticks with a game plan. He doesn't seem to vary. He's not necessarily a wild fighter. I would say he's pretty technical to be a heavyweight, especially. He's a pretty technical fighter. He just doesn't go out there and swing wildly. Now, meanwhile, on the other side, you have a couple of factors. You got Curtis Blaydes, Curtis Razor Blaydes. And, my boy, he comes out there to the Mortal Kombat themes, respect, big respect, big acknowledgement, acknowledge me, big acknowledgement on that. And I mean, Curtis Blaydes, what can you say about Curtis Blaydes? A couple of things. Outstanding wrestler. In any weight class, that guy would be a good wrestler, but especially at heavyweight. Over the last year to year and a half, maybe 2 years, I would say he has upped his striking. He's really focused on his striking. He's really upped it. Curtis has hands now. If he needs to, he'll knock somebody out or at least damage him enough to get in close for the takedown. And then once Curtis takes someone down, what's interesting about him is he just has that incredible top pressure, and he just stays on top of them and smothers them. And a lot of the time, he takes guys down, they don't get back up. And if they do get back up, he's willing and waiting. He's going to take you down again. So that's very interesting when you add in the fact that he's got these hands. I mean, he's a tough person to deal with at heavyweight. But more so when you look at Curtis Blaydes, you've got a guy who, I mean, let's think about it. Would he have been a heavyweight champion by now if it wasn't for, if Derek Lewis wasn't hanging around in the division, and if Francis Ngannou wasn't around? Would he have already have been a heavyweight? Because both of those guys, Derek Lewis stopped him when he was on his trajectory to the top, and Francis Ngannou has beaten him twice. Once, early in both of their careers, and the second time when Curtis was on his way to the top, trying to get a title shot. So I mean, that's the thing, is you have a guy who has had like 3 different runs for the heavyweight title, And three different times he's been stopped before he could ever make it to the title shot. Twice by Francis, once by Derek Lewis. So I mean, that on a lot of fighters that takes a toll on them. A lot of fighters, like if you look at Dominic Reyes, I feel like Dominic Reyes will never be as good as he was the night that he fought John Jones, because he felt he was robbed of that win and of that title. And sometimes for people, when you get that close, like that close to achieving your dream, and then you don't, you just never recover. You just don't have it mentally in you to put out the physicality, to do the physical portion of climbing back to the top. You know, I guess it was like an invisible rope, like I'm climbing, like, it's hard to do that labor of climbing all the way back to the top to get in the position to try to achieve your dream again. In this case, we're talking about the top of the rankings, the top of the division, to fight for the belt. It's hard. It's hard for these guys to bounce back. After Dominic Reyes lost that fight, I mean, I never thought he was ever going to do much of anything again in the sport. And that's no disrespect to him. All credit to that man. But it is hard when you're that close. You almost beat the GOAT. You almost beat John Jones. You were almost the light heavyweight champion of the world, and you didn't get it. And then they tell you got to go out here and fight, big Yanni Blacko, Jan Blakovic. You know what I'm saying? You got to go out there and fight that man. And it's like, bro, I ain't got it. I ain't got it in me. And he hasn't had it in him since then. They put him in there against Yuri. Yuri did him dirty too, did damage to him. So, I mean, it's like, man, it's hard to get back up there when you're so close to your dream. So, with that being said, you got to give it to Curtis Blaydes, because this is like his fourth run going for the title, and he's still in it. I think he's mentally strong. I think he's ready. I think he's sick and tired of waiting on the new shiny toy in the heavyweight division that always comes along and keeps him from getting his shot. He was on his way to the top. Here comes Francis. Francis beats him. He's on his way to the top again. Here comes Francis again. Francis beats him. He's on his way again. Here comes Derek Lewis, who's just lingering around, knocks him out with a straight uppercut as he tries to shoot in for a takedown. So I mean, that's just what I mean. This guy is mentally strong because this is his fourth run. And what happens? He's on his way. Francis is the champion. So he's sitting around thinking, Jesus, I'm not even going to get my shot because I've already lost to Francis twice. This is pre-Izzy and Pereira. So it's like they're not going to give me a third fight against this guy. Then Francis leaves the UFC. And, well, it's up to Gane and it's up to Jones. Because the UFC knew they weren't going to take that risk of putting Curtis Blaydes in there with John Jones, because he's that good of a wrestler. I feel like John Jones is a much better fighter, but anytime, I mean, the best base you can have in mixed martial arts is wrestling. Anytime you got a strong wrestler at heavyweight with strong top pressure that can smother somebody, the UFC didn't want to take that chance, so they gave that fight to Gane versus John for the vacant heavyweight title. And now John Jones is the heavyweight champion. And that changes things because this man is a star. He's the GOAT. So, the UFC is not rushing to put randos in the octagon with him because they don't want to take the chance of Curtis Blaydes being the guy that smothers him with that top pressure, wrestles him, beats him in a 5-round decision, and now there's a win over John Jones. They don't want that. I'm not saying that the two of these guys will never fight, but if they can avoid it, they're going to try to avoid it, because Curtis Blaydes, he's not the best on the mic. He's not the best at selling himself. And honestly, over the years, he kind of has some weird kind of takes on things and weird takes on female fighters and so on and so forth. So, I mean, he's kind of an awkward guy to be your heavyweight champion of the world. Now, I'm not saying John Jones by no means. This guy ain't no saint. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, at this point in his career, the UFC can do the media for him. They can kind of spin him how they need to spin him. Curtis is a little bit different, and it's harder to sell a lot of fights with Curtis at the top. So they're not going to be rushing to make that fight. But at the same time, you got to give it up to Curtis Blaydes. So in my opinion, even though I think Sergey is an extremely good fighter, tough fighter, and very skillful, I think that the wrestling of Curtis Blaydes is going to be. I think that's going to be the difference. I think that is what's going to get him the win. I feel Curtis is going to be able to eventually take him down. I think Sergey's going to be able to stuff a lot of the shots, but I think eventually he will be able to take him down. And once he gets him to the ground, I think he'll smother him. He'll beat him up with elbows, kind of stay on top of him, never let him get back to the top. And then if Sergey makes it out of that round, when they go into the next round, Curtis might be able to catch him on the feet because Sergey's going to be so worried or scared of the takedown. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited to see that fight. But like I said, don't sleep on Curtis Blaydes. I'm not saying people are sleeping on him, but this is a mentally strong, mentally tough man. He wants that belt. He wants that title, or at least a chance to fight for the belt. And he just keeps coming back. He keeps retooling his game. He keeps changing things up. He keeps adding new things to his arsenal. He's a pretty good striker now, at least for a heavyweight. So it's going to be interesting to see this Saturday, UFC Fight Night. Curtis versus Sergey. We're going to see how it goes down, and that's just my thoughts. What do you think? You think Curtis has got this one, or are you going with Sergey? Let me know in the comments below. Right down there, you know what I'm saying? Why ain't you comment? Comment, bro. Why are you holding all that in? You got a voice. You might be smart. You probably smarter than me if you're watching this video. Go on and get in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you think. But nevertheless, I appreciate you guys watching me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. Appreciate you watching my videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Peace.